You are listening to the Booktrospective Podcast, a podcast for all types of books. And even though we read all types of books across all different types of genres, we want to give a disclaimer. Many of our books and a lot of our content sometimes is intended for mature audiences. And we don't believe in censorship, but we do want our listeners to have the opportunity to decide if our episode or podcast is good for them. So, with that, let's get into the episode. Hey, it's Dominique,
And Keely.
and you are listening to Booktrospective. And this week, finally, we are doing Five Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. That's it, right? Did I make that up? That's her name, right?
Yes, that is her name.
I was like, I hope I'm saying that right. So the switcheroo again. So this week we are gonna do this one. Blame me. I am sorry. And I'm not gonna ask Keely how our week was because we're recording this at the same time as another one. But I do want to beg and plead you all again to like and share, rate, and review our episodes and our podcasts on Spotify and Apple. We're really trying to get that up so that the more likes and shares and listeners and downloads that we get, the more that we are able to do and bring more opportunities and different types of episodes and content to you guys. So I really appreciate if you would do that.
Yes, and especially on TikTok because, and my voice cracking over here. I was sick. I was sick a couple days ago. But we get to 1,000 followers on TikTok and we can do live videos.
Ooh.
And it would be cool to maybe do a live video of one of our episodes. You get the bloopers and all.
Yeah, you'll get all the bloopers and watch me fumble around with my setup and all those good things. So if you want to watch me make a fool out of myself, please do that. All right, well, Keely with the blurb.
When I started rereading this book, Peyton, my youngest sister, she's 13, was like, you've already read that book. I said, okay, can I not read it again? And I said, plus it's for the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, five total strangers. She thought being stranded was the worst thing that could happen. She was wrong. Mira needs to go home for the holidays. Badly. But when an incoming blizzard results in canceled connections, it looks like Mira might get stuck at the Philadelphia airport indefinitely. And then Harper, Mira's glamorous seatmate from her initial flight, comes to the rescue. Harper and her 3 friends are renting a car, and they can drop Mira off on the way home. But as their trip begins, Mira discovers her fellow travelers aren't friends like she thought. They're total strangers. And every one of them seems to be hiding something dangerous. Soon, Mira is in a panic. The roads have gone from slippery to terrifying. People's belongings are mysteriously disappearing. Someone in the car is clearly lying, and Mira begins to suspect that one of them is sabotaging the trip. If she wants to make it home alive, she'll need to uncover the truth about these strangers before the nightmare drive turns fatal.
Okay. So what would be a word that you would use to describe this?
Oh, I would say, and let's, on the theme of, winter, Christmas, whatever, snow, I would say avalanche.
Oh, that's really good, actually, because it is. It's like a snowball.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to go with suspicion or
Okay.
doubt or mistrust, anything like that. And when we, started reading this, I asked Kayla if she had remembered it, last year. It was last December or something. There was, a bunch of people in Florida who couldn't get flights, and they, a bunch of strangers got in a car and drove wherever they were going. I would never do that. I don't know. I just wait. I'm just going to have to wait.
Yeah, I'll curl up in the airport. I'll wait.
I don't know you. I don't want to be trapped in I don't like car rides, anyways, with people I do know. So, yeah. But I was like, oh, that's what it made me think of. So, all right. So, a spoiler-free summary. So, Mira is on a flight home from California where she goes to school. And it's Christmas Eve. and she's going to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she's from. And so she was on the plane next to a girl named Harper, who's in college. And this entire time and book, no one knows that Mira's in high school, because she like goes to like a special arts school, or whatever. So she is. They get to wherever they get for their connecting flight, and all of the flights are grounded. They're canceled, and there's a blizzard coming through. And all she wants to do is get home to see her mom, because her aunt, who was her mom's twin, died a year ago. And she also learns like things have happened at home, like changes, and her mom's basically lonely, and she's worried about her mom like not doing well. So she wants to get home. So she runs into Harper again, because Harper told her like, "Oh, I'm gonna try and get like a rental car. Do you want to ride?" And at first she was like, "No," but then when she realized that she didn't have any other way out, she's like, "Sure." So Harper has ran into Brecken in the car rental line, and he helped like pay for the rental. And then she also met Kayla and Josh on an escalator, and so they all agreed to pile into this car. And as they drive, like at first there really wasn't a lot of snow, so they're like, maybe it's not going to be that bad. But as they are driving, not even too long, it gets like horrible conditions. People are wrecking, and like the main highway gets shut down. So they are like, I mean, they're going to Pennsylvania, so they're like in the Appalachians. Yeah. That's the most terrifying part of this book, and that's not even really the most terrifying part of this book. But so they're like going to take the back roads, and all I could think of was Wrong Turn. But
I mean,
I made this book scarier in theory. But so they literally, so like the roads are terrible. Their routes are getting shut down. They do crash a few times, and things start to go missing, and just weird stuff starts to happening among the five of them trapped in this car together trying to get home. Then after a bit of time, they end up having like a scuffle with some townies in a town they end up in. And so now not only are they trying to get home, but they're kind of running for their lives as well. So Mira constantly has a bad feeling throughout this time, and everyone is pretty much a suspect to her. And also everybody else in the car kind of feels that way about each other as well. So they don't know who's stealing things. Is someone stealing things? Are they getting lost? Whose fault is it that they're, running from these townies? Who picked the route that we're on? X, Y, and Z. So the big question is, will they make it home? So that's about as spoiler free as I can get. So if you have not read the book, or you want to have a chance to do that, then this would be your chance to pause, but make sure you come back and listen. If you do not care about being spoiled, or you are reading along with us, then let's get into this book. So we open with Mira, and she's on her flight from California. I can't remember where the connection was, but she's on a flight to a connection flight to get back to Pennsylvania. And her Aunt Phoebe was her mom's twin, and she died a year ago. So it's just like a bad time of the year. And she's sitting next to a girl named Harper, and she's like a stranger, but she's like real sophisticated. She's in college. She's talking about college or whatever. There's tons of turbulence on this plane, and she's supposed to only have like a 45-minute layover once they land to get to her next flight. Her and Harper have been talking throughout the flight, and she told her that Mira is an artist, and Harper thinks that she should transfer to Cal Arts College. But Mira's actually in high school. She's not in college, but she doesn't let anybody know that. She has a lot of guilt about going to the school because she left her mom, and but she says that her Aunt Phoebe, who died, was actually the one who gave her the money, and so she did it. There's other people on the plane like getting sick and crying because there's lots of turbulence, and all Harper can think is like, if they're gonna crash, she just wants them to go ahead and get it over with. And I'm like, dang. Positive thoughts. So they land, and her mom has sent her like a lot of worried messages. She tells us her mom is a nurse and is pretty much scared of everything, especially since her aunt died. And we learned that it is Christmas Eve. So it is snowing, and she pretty much knows like her flight's been canceled, her connecting flight. Harper plans to get a car and offers her a ride to Philly, but she declines. And this is when Mira realizes that all the flights are canceled. She says she has to get home to help distract her mom because Phoebe died on Christmas last year. So she calls her stepdad, because she doesn't want to call her mom directly because she know like she'll panic and she won't be able to get off of the phone, all these things. So she calls her stepdad to let him know that she won't be home. But when she calls him, she finds out that her stepdad and her mom are getting a divorce. And he doesn't want to call the mom because they're not living together and he moved out 2 weeks ago. So she runs into Harper again after this call, who was able to get a car because Harper's not 25, and you pretty much know, like, if you're not 25, they don't like to rent cars to you. But she was able to get a car, and she asked if Mira has changed her mind and wants to come with us, which are 3 other people that were also on her flight. So we meet Josh, who is, all of these people are college age. Josh is on crutches, something's wrong with his knee. Then there's Kayla, she's like a real pale blonde, and like she's not dressed the best, she's kind of haggard. And then there's Brecken, he's like a real big guy, kind of like a jock looking guy. So Mira learns that Mira and Brecken are actually both going to Pittsburgh, and she agrees to go with them, and she's checking her phone for messages from her friend Zari. So her and Zari are not on the best terms because Zari's upset that she moved across the country, and Zari is in orchestra or something like that and has a concert that she wants Mira to make it home for. She asked Zari if she knew anything about her parents getting divorced, and she says no, and she tells her she needs to be safe riding with strangers. Mira asks Josh what happened to his knee, and he wants her to like guess, and she says, "Oh, I think you were in a bear attack," which obviously we know is not true. Mira ends up getting sat in the back seat in the middle between Josh and Kayla, and it's going to be a 6-hour drive to get them to Pittsburgh. It's barely snowing, but there is currently a blizzard warning, and so as they start driving, like, they think everything's fine, but they start to slide on ice and realize that it actually is getting worse outside. Her mom and dad have been sending messages because they haven't heard about her catching a ride. They still think that she's at the airport. The current traffic warning has moved from orange to red, and traffic is stopped ahead, so they're looking for a detour. And they see a sports car like flipped over on the roof of the car, and their windshield is starting to ice over. Brecken's up front with Harper. Harper's driving. He's in the passenger side, so he reaches like out and is able to kind of clear the ice off of his side, because Harper doesn't want to pull over. But they end up having to get the ice off of the windshield, and Harper reaches for the blade and it ends up cutting her hand. So far, Kayla's pretty much been asleep the entire ride, and she starts laughing when Harper cuts her hand, and Mira's like, what's funny? Like, why are you laughing? Josh says that he probably has some bandages in his car, so they get her all bandaged up, and as they're doing that, there's a Mustang, like, headed the wrong way on the highway, straight for them. We end the chapter with a letter, and it is written to Mira, and so it basically is, like, summarizing that this person is someone who met her at the hospital last year when her aunt died at the coffee shop, and they end up paying for Mira's coffee and said that it was fate that they met and that they'll never forget or let her forget. Dun, dun, dun. So, several other chapters end like that with a letter, but we go back to our group. They are all okay. The Mustang actually didn't hit them. They end up crashing against a wall, and Brecken decides, like, he's going to drive now. Mira just feels very scared because it feels like someone's watching her, even though obviously there's no one else to be watching her. They have to stop again, and Harper suggests that everyone tries to use the bathroom. And I was like, okay, Mom. They stop at, like, a little rest stop or something. Harper asks if she's okay from the cut, and she realizes that, Harper asks Mira if she's okay, and Mira realizes that everyone's staring at her, and she's like, do I not look okay? And Harper tells her, yeah, she's just really quiet, and Mira starts to feel paranoid. She goes to use the bathroom, and as she like is coming out, Josh is there, and he says that Brecken wants to put the snow chains on the truck, but obviously, like, there's not really a lot of snow yet. It's just ice. So he doesn't think it's a good idea. And Mira says, like, Josh is kind of an ass. Like, he has, like, an air to him. Like, he's arrogant. Mm-hmm. She finally decides to call her mom. She pretends she doesn't know about the divorce, so she asks, like, is Danielle coming to Christmas? And her mom says they'll figure it out when she's home. So the mom doesn't really answer her, like, give her any information. Her mom is worried about her being in the car with strangers, and she says that she's 100% sure she's safe, which Mira knows is a lie, because she obviously is worried. She also texts her friend Zari and asks if she heard anything about her mom. Zari tells her that her mom wouldn't give her answers, but she can tell there's something up. So Mira assumes that her mom must be like doing bad right now. Mira asks, or Mira tells Zari that her friends in the car are very weird. And then she goes to get something from the vending machine at this rest stop and feels like there's someone watching her. And she sees a strange man at a table. Like, he's sitting in the shadows with a battered yellow baseball hat on. And she says, like, oh, I didn't see you. And he just doesn't respond. She looks at his hand, and it's kind of like burnt and scarred. And he looks like he could be really strong. But she says it just feels, something about him feels wrong. So she asks him if he's okay, and he still doesn't respond to her. Josh calls for her to come on out to the car, and she thinks about telling him about the guy sitting there, but she realizes that there's no trucks outside anymore, and there's no tire marks, so she doesn't know where he came from. Brecken was still trying to put the chains on, but he goes to like get them out of the car, and they're all busted. It's like they're like squeezed too tight where they would connect, or I don't know. They look intentionally broken.
Mm-hmm.
They dismiss this as like maybe whoever used them last just didn't do right and the card people didn't check. And Mira is just constantly wishing like that she hadn't have come, which yeah, you should have stayed at the airport. They get back on the road and they realize that they're headed into the storm and they need to change routes. But that would take them up through the mountains. And that is where I was like, absolutely not. Wrong turn terrifies me. I would never, ever go off of the map, and I'm not driving through the Appalachia in a storm or anything.
Especially it being snowy and slick.
Yeah, it sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly... Okay, so we live in Indiana. And, like, if you need to go east, like Myrtle Beach or something, it typically takes you through, like, West Virginia. And you know that you stop for gas before you get to West Virginia, and you don't stop when you drive through. I don't play around in that, like, area. And this has nothing to do with this book. It does not come up in that way at all. But these are just, like, my own personal fears when I was reading it. So... they're like kind of arguing about like should they go in the mountains. So Harper says that the mountains don't get that bad in the storm, which I could not possibly believe that. And the guys say that it only will get bad if it snows, which right now it's just icy, but I don't want to be on a mountain when it ices either. So
right.
I want to be on flat land. Kayla says it sounds like a death trap, but they don't know if they really have another choice. So everyone else kind of decides that they'll take this alternate route, which is I-80, and that it'll be okay. But Mira still doesn't think so. Josh just starts casually talking to her and asks like what her major is, and she says undecided because she's still pretending that she's in college. And he asks the others, and she kind of panics because Mira realizes that none of these people know each other. She thought that Harper knew them. So we find out that Harper is like majoring in psychology, Brecken is pre-med, Josh is in business, and Kayla says she's actually not in school. She was in California visiting. Mira laughs because she doesn't know why she assumed they all knew each other, and she says she thought that they were all friends, but everyone is like, no, and they laugh too and say, maybe this is just fate. Josh apologizes for being grumpy and says it was a bad day. He had to sit next to a crying lady on the plane, and he's just been in pain, and he couldn't get to his pain medicine on the plane. Harper says that she actually met Brecken in line with her at the car place, and she met Josh and Kayla on the escalator, and met Mira on the plane. They start asking again about I-80, and Brecken heads that way and says that he's just over like this mess. Harper says that they all should have a say in what direction they take, and Mira tells Harper that it's your rental, you should decide. But Brecken says, well, I helped pay for it, so I should get a say. Kayla doesn't care, and Josh agrees with Brecken. Harper doesn't look so well, and Mira can see like the blood on her shirt from cutting her hand. And Brecken like reassures everybody that he'll get them home. So Mira's texting Zari, and I did not like Zari because I'm like, why? Like, it's completely out of her control because Zari keeps talking about, like, are you going to make it to my concert?
Right.
Like, there's a blizzard and I'm driving with strangers. I don't know.
If I wasn't driving, no, absolutely, I wouldn't make it there, but I didn't just have miss no idea. Fun. Right.
Yeah, like, I wasn't, like, sitting at home, like, oh, no, I'm not coming. Like, girl, chill out. And so they start driving again, and they almost hit a van when they have to brake and slide. And Harper says that, like, the news or whatever is now saying that only emergency vehicles should be on the highway. So Brecken is like, this is why we need to take I-80. It's a better choice. And I still was like, no, you idiot. So Mira keeps blaming herself for being in California in the first place and leaving her mom alone. And Brecken goes to take off again, and the tires spin. And Harper is like saying that they're gonna wreck, and Brecken is like, everything's fine, and she's like, no, it's not. So Harper's starting to panic a little bit. Mira thinks she's panicking because she's noticed that Harper has like constantly been checking her phone and like looking weird, and so she thinks there's something in her messages that's making Harper be weird. Harper just keeps saying like this wasn't the plan and she has to get home, and Brecken grabs her hand, which Mira clocks. Kayla goes back to sleep, and Mira's phone is starting to die. The roads are more clear as they start to approach I-80, so that does calm them a little bit, but Mira still just has a bad feeling. She mentions how Brecken keeps staring at everyone, like while he's driving in the mirror, and the highway starts to get snowier. Mira actually does fall asleep for a bit, but she wakes up to them sliding. Luckily, they don't crash. She asks where they are and notices that Kayla has been crying, but Kayla tells her she's fine. She wonders if Kayla is sick because she's got like tears and she just looks bad, and she's just been sleeping the entire time, and she's shaking now. Mira notices that they're in the storm now, and they see another car that has lost control. She says she thought this was supposed to be the better route, and Josh says it's not a good time for that. I told you so stuff. And I'm like, yes, it is. Right? And I was like, they literally were shitting all over Mira about it. So absolutely, I would be saying the exact same thing.
Right.
Brecken says he doesn't like this as they start to go up an incline, which, sir, you picked the mountains. They go up and they go down. I don't. Right. What did you expect? This is not
mountains.
The plains. Yeah.
It's not when the flatlands. A blizzard is supposed to hit is never
a good idea. Oh my gosh. But so now Brecken is like, he doesn't like it, and I was like, oh, but this was the better route. Harper's phone is like being kind of slow as she's trying to check on. Basically, he was like, how much of a decline is it? And she's trying to check it, but Harper's phone's being slow. So Mira turns her phone on, but she gets kind of car sick at like looking at her phone, which I can relate to. I cannot be on my phone in the car, or even like read a book in the car. It makes me so sick. So they see that it's just like a little small hill, so they're actually fine. But Harper and Josh see on their phones that there's crashes ahead on the map. And all they can see now are like tire tracks from like the cars in front of them, so they really can't even see the road. They notice that they're going downhill again, and there's a bridge, and they start sliding out of control towards this bridge. They start to spin, and they're headed towards a major pileup and a guardrail. And everyone's just basically screaming, and they do hit like side of the car up against the guardrail. And this chapter ended with another letter. So this one says February 4th. And it says, they basically say they knew that they may never see Mira again after the coffee shop, but they don't have to worry about that now. They came to one of her art shows because they saw her through the window. And they asked, why does she pretend not to remember them? They've traveled 2,000 miles to see her again, and say that someone from the art place basically gave Mira's address to them.
Which, excuse me?
Lawsuit. Immediately, I'm suing you. So back to the gang. They didn't hit like the guardrail too bad because they're still able to drive, but they noticed that there's other cars like obviously sliding down this highway headed for them. And if they stay there, they're going to be hit. So they see a tractor trailer is sliding downhill sideways and will hit them, but they are able to like move in the nick of time and drive off. And they pass another wreck a little whiles up, and they realize that was the one that was on the map. So this previous wreck wasn't even on the map yet. And there's like sirens and stuff everywhere, but there's no one's getting anything fixed in this weather. Like it's literally chaos. Mira starts to get overheated and feels like she's going to throw up. So they look for a gas station, and they talk about getting back on the road, and Kayla is just looking even worse. Josh and Mira notice the chemistry between Harper and Brecken and wonder if they do actually know each other. She's still worrying about her mom because she is considering like using her emergency card at this gas station because she only has like $30, but she doesn't want her like mom to see it and panic. And I'm like, and her phone's dying. I'm like, why don't you charge your phone in the car? Like I'm not understanding that. And I'm like, why don't you just call your mom and just call her? What can she do? Okay. So she starts to think about Josh and think I could actually like him if he was nicer and not so arrogant. In the gas station, there's like it's like a mom and pop kind of gas station, but there's a dad and then the son's at the register, and the dad is like, the store's closing in 20 minutes and you and your friends need to hurry up. So like they're out there getting gas, and then Kayla was inside, and she sees Kayla, and she's been wandering like around the store, And then Harper looks like she's lost her wallet. So Mira offers to pay, but the credit card machine is down, and Harper thought that she had cash, but she can't find her wallet. The gas ended up being $42, and no one has enough to cover it. She goes to find Kayla and sees the guy with the battered yellow hat. He also has this like hospital smell to him, and she can remember it from being at the hospital for Aunt. And she's like, "How the heck did he get all the way here?" When like that's just a strange coincidence. They're able to come up with $20 in cash and argue about whether the man will let them off. Harper says he'll call the police and she can't have that happening. And I'm like, well, why not? Brecken says no, and he literally just pulls off from the gas station. So the dad comes out of the station and gets in his car, and Brecken says he won't catch them, but Josh says, look at the roads, and Harper is panicking. She says she can't afford this to happen. The dad has like, and of course the dad has like a snow truck. Like he is prepared for this weather. And he starts following him, but they're actually able to lose him. So Josh like directs them with the map and then tells them to turn the lights off. They pull into this campground and Josh says stay in the truck, and like Brecken and Mira get out and like go and clear their tire track so that he won't see where they turned in. The truck passes by and they start to relax, but then they hear a car brake and see the truck turn down another road. Josh asks for a charger and Mira looks for hers, and they realize that Josh's book is now missing and Mira's phone is now missing. Mira hasn't seen her phone since they had like wrecked and then went to the gas station. And Harper's like, this isn't normal. Like, my wallet's missing, your phone's missing, and Josh's book of all things is missing.
Of all things.
Like, who cares about a book? Kayla laughs like out of her sleep, and Brecken says that she's been quiet, and she says both of them haven't lost anything and calls him rich boy. So Kayla and Brecken both haven't lost anything at this point, and Kayla's like, you're just a snotty like rich boy. They all like start searching the car, and they just search over and over again. They even search outside, and Josh says it's scary that they've all lost something. And we end with another letter. They thought Mira would have wrote them by now, and that she would have accepted what they are by now. They say that they're going to play shy now, and they found her new painting online. They say it was 3:30, and that's what time it was when they met at the coffee shop, and she painted a woman wearing the same thing that she was wearing that day. And then they end with saying, you can't keep me waiting forever. Back with our group, this time Harper is going to drive, and Mira sits in the front seat with her, and Brecken's in the back seat, but he's like a backseat driver. They talk about what they'd be doing if they were home, and Brecken says that they watch Christmas movies, which is funny because like they're ridiculous because he's Jewish. Harper says that she writes letters, and they talk about if they're worth writing. But Mira says she's never actually gotten a letter, which I think is kind of weird. Harper slides while driving, and then she overcorrects, and they start to get stuck in snow. So they have to get out, and there's luckily like a shovel in their emergency kit, and they're able to dig out. Mira finally decides to call her mom using Brecken's phone, but she changes her mind and calls her dad instead, like her actual dad. And he tells her he doesn't like this and asks, does she feel safe, and is this a good idea? Brecken's phone is down to 8%, so he grabs his backup battery, but it's missing. He goes to grab it, and it's missing. Mm-hmm. So he's like, we're searching everyone's bags. And Kayla protests, and she's the only one who hasn't lost anything, so he accuses her and says he doesn't want to be in the car with a thief. But Kayla's like, I mean, you're a thief. You just stole gas. Right. That was true. So Josh and Harper defend Kayla because Brecken is being pretty nasty to her. Like, honestly, Brecken's kind of a misogynist.
Yeah.
So they all dump their bags, and they all just start going through their bags. So Kayla goes and second to last, and Mira notices how small Kayla is and how her ID picture looks like healthier. So she just looks like she's lost weight, and she just wears like ragged clothing. And Kayla starts frantically searching like she's lost something, but she doesn't say what. Brecken goes last. His bag is extremely organized and packed like OCD, and he's shocked because when he goes to open and go through his bag, he finds Josh's book in there. And we get another letter. They ask what game is she playing. They say anytime they circle her apartment to check on her, they don't, or basically the letter is saying like they have been going by her house to check on her, but they haven't seen her yet. Kayla starts screaming and says, where's her stuff? And Brecken says he doesn't know, and he doesn't know how the book got in there. The girls all start accusing him, and he's like, screw all of you. Why would I recommend checking the bags if I knew that the book was going to be in there? Which I think is fair. Harper says she's ready to go and get home, and Josh says, what if more stuff gets taken? And Brecken says he doesn't want their stuff. So they all get back in, and Mira is up front with Brecken this time. She notices Kayla staring, and Kayla, gives her this weird smile. Mira realizes that Kayla isn't sick. It's something else, and that's probably what she was looking for. So we're assuming drugs. They talk about finding a new route, and Brecken recommends going back to where the gas station was, and Harper and Mira refuse. Mira, Harper, and Josh need to use the bathroom, and Brecken says that they can just pee in a bottle. And Harper's like, that doesn't work for everyone. And Brecken says women make everything about gender, and they're at his mercy because he's driving. Which causes Harper to say, no, this is my car, you're at my mercy. So they're back on this argument again. They do find a rest stop, and Mira considers running to a house instead of staying with the group, but she doesn't. She notices headlights headed their way, and Mira hopes it's someone that she can leave with. But it's a red truck. The owner of the gas station has found them. Brecken tells them to all get in the car now as the driver and his passenger get out, and it's the dad and the son. Brecken tries to get in the car, and they stop him and start asking where does he think he's going. Brecken tries to reason with them and tells them to lock the doors. But Josh was actually still out of the car too because he went to the bathroom, and so they take his crutches as he heads back to the car. They start to punch Brecken, and they punch him in the nose, and then the dad is trying to pull Brecken back out of the car, and the son is trying to pull on Josh. Brecken is punching the dad, and the dad starts choking him. And Brecken puts the car in reverse, which is dragging the dad. But then they hit something and realize that he ran over the son. So they see the son bleeding, and his foot and leg are in the wrong direction. It is really bad. So they just decide to drive off as the dad goes to help the son. And Harper starts screaming, Kayla's cussing, and Brecken is blaming Josh. He says that Brecken put the car in reverse, but Josh grabbed the wheel, which made him run over the son. They all are saying that they should go help them, but Kayla says that they had guns, which back at the gas station it said that they did have guns, and I would strongly believe that they probably had guns too.
Especially for the area.
Yeah, the area that they're in, they probably have shotguns and stuff. No. So the dad was on the phone, and he goes, they hadn't pulled completely off yet. They just backed up. So the dad is on the phone, and then he goes to his truck, and Mira's like, oh my God, is he getting that gun? And Josh is like, we have to go, and Harper says, this is a hit and run. But they drive off, and Harper's phone's dead. Josh tries to check using the chargers, and they're not working. And he checks the outlet, and it's broken. I'm like, what kind of car only has one outlet? Brecken's phone now is only at 2% as well. So they ask Kayla about her phone, and her eyes are rolling, and her mouth has white crust around it. She's, ugh. And she says she doesn't have a phone. And then they realize that their map is also gone now too. Harper makes Brecken give her the keys, and they want to go to the police so that they don't look guilty. But Brecken's like, I'm the only one that's going to look guilty because he was the one driving the car. And Josh says they can explain it was an accident. So they end up stopping at a bar, and Mira's like, I'm not 21. And we get another letter. Mira has been posting online that she's single and looking and been making jokes with her friends, and it's making the writer angry. So our group asked the bar owners, can they use the phone to call the police? And the woman at the bar is pretty cold. Her name's Joyce. But she doesn't really want to, but there's a man at the bar, and he says to give the kid some pizza and offer them the phone. Mira notices a stranger at the bar who's extremely still, and she ends up going to the bathroom. Josh snaps at Kayla about being on drugs, and Mira tries to comfort her. And Kayla says that she's the only one who's not a liar, and Mira says she isn't either. But Kayla says, aren't you? Mira notices that Kayla is wearing a medical bracelet and asks why. And she says it was from her brother. He was a type 1 diabetic, and he had seizures, and he died. Mira notices that Kayla is zoning out, so she thinks that she must not have lost her drugs because she seems like she's gotten more. And Kayla apologizes to Mira and says, Mira says, for what? And she says, for everything. Kayla leaves her in the bathroom, and Harper then comes in. And Mira asks if she's okay. And Harper says, I just need a minute, and so Mira leaves her. The man at the bar is still there, and Joyce is looking at him too. Josh says the cops picked up the man and his kid, but they don't know what will happen yet. And so Joyce tells them that the bar is closing in 20 minutes, and they don't know if the cops will make it before the bar people kick them out. Mira plans to ask Joyce if they'll be able to stay there, but Josh cautions her, and he suggests that they look for another place, but Mira doesn't want to. He tells her that they need to be careful with Brecken. He's worried about Kayla because Brecken keeps talking about her drugs and thinks he may try to pin everything on Kayla. Harper comes out of the bathroom finally, but she's like completely like put together. Like she had a whole like 180. The guy at the bar still hasn't moved, but they go towards him and he puts money on the bar, and Mira recognizes him from the gas station and from the truck stop with that hat and that hospital smell. So she starts to panic, and then the power goes out.
Of course.
And then Joyce and the guy at the bar, his name was Smitty, they grab their phones for light, and the other guy sneaks out. So what? So we get another letter. The writer says he's angry for her denying their connection, and he's found her. He says he got an envelope of all his return letters, and he said he's been watching the address to see if he had seen her. He says he knows that she's going home for the holidays and where to find her. So now everyone's out in the parking lot, and the guy is gone. They have to leave the bar because Joyce is locking up, and Smitty recommends a truck stop. Kayla asks where the weird guy went, and Mira tells them that, she's seen this guy 2 other times. Mira says she saw him at the rest stop by the vending machines, and Brecken starts to say, like, no, but then Josh pipes in, like, no, I remember seeing him there too. Brecken is pretty tense, and Josh notices him, and Brecken says he's just cold. Josh says that they should leave Brecken, and that he has a bad feeling, and he hit that kid on purpose, and Harper is set on defending him because he's got her convinced. Harper hears Josh telling this to Mira and says that's not true. And Mira thinks that Harper and Brecken are hiding a secret. Mira says Harper is treating Josh like a monster and thinks that she's helping because the car is in her name and she doesn't want to get in trouble either. Mira says that Harper says guys like Josh give Brecken a bad name. And Mira snaps and says, why does Harper treat her like a little sister? And ask her, like, I remind you of someone? And Harper says yes, she reminds her of Ella's roommate. Ella was Harper's girlfriend who paints and looks like Mira. Harper says that her concerns are larger than this rental car, and she says again how Brecken helped pay for the rental car, and that's where she met him. Harper admits that her mom called her before they left the airport and was crying. Her dad was arrested, and they basically took like all the computers in their house, so there's something like shady going on with her dad's business, and he works for an investment company. Harper says what Brecken did was a mistake or an accident, and then Brecken and Mira see movement over by like the outside of the bar, and it's the man. He comes out and he says it's cold and that he's not there to hurt anyone. And Brecken says, well, you have a good night. And I agree. Like, yep. Have a good night now. And be safe on the roads. And the man says, that's what I'm getting to. And he says he's traveling without a car. And they look like they have space, which I'm assuming this is like a 5-seater. I don't know what space he thought they had. The man says with those little things. So basically he's like, those girls are small. Like, you could squeeze me in there. I don't even know them. Do you think I'm going to get squeezed into a backseat with you? Absolutely not.
I'm just saying, if he is traveling without a vehicle, the time's 3 times already.
Yeah, you guys have a vehicle. He doesn't. How is
this
he
not? How this is not a coincidence?
The math is not mathing. Yeah, I am creeped out. Like, where are you? Are you a ghost? Are you time traveling? Like, what is it? Mira notices that the man is drunk, and they all just say like, "Sorry, we can't help you." And he says, "You could, and like one day you'll wish you had helped me." They decide to drive off, and they pull over and look for an adapter in the car to plug in. And Mira realizes that she does have her laptop. So she gets out, and Brecken offers to help, and Josh does too, but it's easier for Brecken because obviously Josh's leg and the crutches. So she reaches for her laptop, and Brecken grabs her and asks, do you think I hit that kid on purpose? Because he can tell she's afraid, and he wants to know if it's him that she's afraid of, which you grabbing me is not helping. Yep. He tells her he didn't hit him and that Josh pulled the wheel and he grabs her arm. And Brecken says he's framing me and probably all of them. Brecken tells her that she's not listening and says Josh told him to steal the gas. Mira doesn't believe him and Brecken says, well, he didn't like say it verbally, but like he gave me a look. She doubts Josh. She starts to doubt Josh because she thinks how easy it would be to frame Brecken. And Harper asks what's wrong, and Mira says it's fine, but Brecken says no. Josh is framing us, and he's behind everything. He says Josh suggested when I-80, and Mira reminds him that no, both of you suggested it. He just wants to leave Josh here. And Harper says they have to stop tearing each other apart and work together to stay safe. Brecken says that Josh is dangerous, and Harper says Josh thinks Brecken is dangerous, and she thinks Kayla is dangerous, so they all have issues with each other. As she goes to get in, Harper starts to fall and grabs Mira and her bag, and the laptop freaking falls out with a crack.
Of course.
Of course. Then we get another letter. You should have known me. I was behind you at the gate watching you sketch, but you didn't see me, and I am going to make you pay. Harper apologizes, and she tries to turn the laptop on, but it just cuts right off. Brecken and Josh start bickering, and Brecken says, "Are you blaming me for this?" And Kayla says, "Stop being a little bitch boy crybaby. No one is blaming you." Mira thinks thinks about how she almost caught her laptop, but then Harper pretty much knocked it out of her hand when she was falling. And they only have 2/3 of a tank of gas left as well. They start searching the car again for anything that can help, and Mira sees something like silver shining out of the back seat behind where she was sitting. Harper touches it, and it's sharp. It's a hunting knife. And it was literally behind Mira's seat, but it's open, and it almost looks like someone from the front of the seat would have to push it in that way because the back is sticking out of the back of the seats. So Harper starts blaming Mira, and Josh and Kayla stand up for her. Brecken says Mira was the last one who saw the map and was the one alone with Harper at the gas station before her money went missing, and she was the one who plugged in their phones and dropped the laptop. Brecken says, "Who should we leave now, Mira?" And Harper says, "No one is leaving anyone." Josh says, "You can't carry a knife on a plane, so it can't be any of theirs." And Kayla says, "It's my knife. I got it at the gas station. She stole it." They all act like they can't believe it and ask why, and why did she hide it? And she says the case at the gas station was open, so she took it for protection and then put it in Mira's seat when they all started checking bags. She says she plans on just giving it to her dad for Christmas, but Brecken doesn't buy it and wants to leave her and asks what she's hiding. Kayla asks what's he hiding and says he shouldn't assume she's asleep just because her eyes are always closed. She says she heard his true confession, call to his buddy, and tell him how they won't see him the same. And Brecken says it's nothing. It's not as everyone thinks. They hear a creak and a loud crack, and the snow has come down so much now that it's causing tree limbs to break, and the tree falls and breaks the road. So they all decide to get back in the car, which why are you out in the freezing rain, snow doing this? So Mira's thinking back about how her aunt died in the day she went to the coffee place for caffeine. She didn't even have her wallet, and a stranger ended up paying for hers. And she can feel that something bad is going to happen, but she doesn't get if she doesn't get out of this car soon. So now Harper's driving again. They still don't have a map or a phone, and they need to find another way. Brecken's complaining about Kayla, which causes Harper to ask about the phone call he made again. He says she won't get it and says he has to change his majors because he failed biochem and genetics for the second time and he can't be pre-med anymore. Basically, his entire family are doctors, and so he'll be the first one in years or generations to not
5
make
generations.
it. Yeah, so it's a big deal. And Kayla laughs because she thought it was something more serious, which that is serious to him. She said he'll just have to find another way to get richer, so what? And that's when he tells them about his whole family. They come to a road that's heavily covered, but Josh says it may be their last turn for a while and they should try it. He says the road sounds familiar from the map he saw at the truck stop earlier. The snow is really thick, and Harper tries to drive on the left side of the road where it's blown away from, but she drives down into a ditch. And this time, the driver doors won't open, and the car is half buried at a 45-degree angle. Brecken says that they can dig out, but Josh says they can't. They need to go back to those houses they saw. Harper goes to look. Mira goes to look, and she notices there are houses and lights down a hill from them. Everyone else is hesitant to go down, and Harper decides to help Brecken. And Josh says, well, he'll try, but his leg might not let him. So she decides to go with him, and she decides to try to get something out of her bag. But when she goes, she finds a huge yellow envelope that's not hers, but has her name on it, and it has all of these letters in it. It's also all their missing stuff. Her phone is in there, and it's shattered. And she sees that all of the letters were addressed to her, but they have the wrong address on it. There's also a new letter on top that just has her first name on it, and she doesn't want to read them, but she goes ahead and reads this one. The first line says, Mira, I can smell you in this car and feel the way your breath shifts the air. You aren't calling your parents or going home. You'll understand. You're mine. Creepy.
You can say that again.
She tries to recognize the address, and she realizes that it's the address of a gallery that she had a show at. And she realizes the person must have been at that show a year ago. She thinks about Brecken, who has mentioned Destiny a few times, and then Kayla comes up to her. She asks Kayla if she did this, and she says no. Mira thinks of how neat the letters are and how neat Brecken's bag was, and she tells Kayla she thinks that he did it and she's leaving. She looks over at Harper and feels bad, but remembers how Harper always makes excuses for Brecken, and Kayla says she'll go with her. So they get Josh, and she tells him she thinks he was right and tells him about the letters. Josh is struggling, but he tries to go down the hill with them, but he sends her with Kayla, and Mira says that she'll send help and come back for him. As she's going down, something hits her directly in the back, and she starts tumbling down the hill, and she realizes that she didn't just fall, she was pushed. She looks up and sees Kayla standing there in her skirt, and Kayla just says, "I'm sorry, I need it, I'm sorry." Kayla goes back up the hill, and Mira doesn't understand, but then she sees someone hand Kayla a small orange cylinder, probably pills. She thinks it's Brecken, but then she realizes it's not. It's Josh. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even have his crutches anymore. And I was like, I suspected it was him. And I'm like, so who was the other man? Which we don't get an answer to. Did we?
Yes.
Okay, I might have missed that part.
It comes, later.
Yeah, I might have put it on here. At this point in time, I was like, who is that man? So she tries to make a run for it, but Josh grabs her and says, "Do you remember me now?" Which she doesn't. He says, "I was wearing this brace when I bought you your coffee. It made everything better for you." So she starts to remember. She tries to run again, and he grabs her and has a knife and says it's time to go. She fights him and he tells her to stop fighting him. He gets her arm and it gets cut, and she kicks him in the balls twice and then in the face. She runs to the car, and Kayla is nowhere to be found. She's gone. But she sees Harper and Brecken, who are looking at her because she's bleeding. And Harper raises her shovel because she's about to knock her ass out. She wonders why Kayla helped, and then she remembers how she saw them talking at the gas station and how Kayla had been so sick and then all of a sudden got better and realizes he had been giving her the drugs. Josh comes and tells Harper that Mira pushed him and that Kayla's hurt at the bottom of the hill. Mira reaches for the knife, but he yanks it and slices her hand. So all of a sudden, Josh gets hit in the head with a shovel, and it's Brecken, and then Josh bleeds and just drops dead. The man in the yellow cap, here it is. The man in the yellow cap ends up pulling up in a car. He was able to catch a ride in an SUV, and he asks what happened, and Brecken tells him. He asks where Kayla is, and Mira says she's gone. The man says he saw Josh give her some pills at the bar that they were at, and then the police come and take them to the hospital. Mira wakes up in the hospital, and her mom is there, and she is all fine. And that is where we end this little book.
Yeah.
So, thoughts?
Freaking twisty.
It is.
Your one word was a very good
suspicion.
Yeah, because it was cast on everybody.
Yeah.
But
I felt like it wasn't Kayla because I was like, that's a red herring.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't her. I thought it could be Brecken at some point in time. I never really thought it was Harper.
Yeah, there was the one point where I was like, Harper sounds a little suspicious when she was talking about how much she loved to write letters.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's a little suspicious, but Brecken there for a little bit, I was like, okay, could potentially be Brecken. Harper, I didn't necessarily think that Harper was it, but I was also like, Harper would be a good one to be sabotaging things because nobody's really paying attention to her.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was between the weird yellow cap guy that kept showing
him, I was like, and I
him and Josh, Josh just
was weird.
Yeah,
there was something off. I still and so that's one of my comments with this book because I'm like, there is no way that this man was getting around like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not realistic to me.
4 times.
He was walking, because I'm assuming that's what he was. I mean, there's no way. That's, yeah. So, I don't know. So, what did you rate it?
I think I rated it like 3.5 or 4 stars, something like that.
Okay. Yep. I give it a 3. I felt like there was a lot of, like, not resolved. I didn't like how it ended, because it just, like, Mira's in the hospital, and I'm like, okay, like, where's everybody else?
What happened?
Yeah, like...
Like, I think that it would have been a good one if it ended up with, the police coming and, like, the initial, like, questioning, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But...
So, like, it just, like, it was all this build-up, and then it was just, like, boop.
Yeah. Cut off.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah. So I gave it a 3. But, I mean, I didn't mind reading it. I like the suspense of figuring that out.
Yeah. A lot of moments where it's like, you're stupid. Like
the mountains.
seriously?
I just never would have agreed to that. I never would have gotten this car, so it doesn't matter. But
and I would have been like, well, if you guys want to go, I will. I guess I'll walk in the snow. I'm not going in those mountains.
yeah, like I'm not. I'll just sit down here. Like I guess there's police. I'll get in one of their cars. And
Right.
Give me an ambulance and take me to the hospital to sit it out because I'm not going up in the mountains. Like that
No.
just never seems like a good idea. Why would anybody think that was a good idea? Okay, well, did you do any fan cast?
Yeah, I struggled a bit.
I feel like I don't know what like anybody looks like.
Yeah, so and again, I struggled. Josh was really the one that I was like, okay, this is who I'm thinking. I mean, that was Nick Robinson. Because he's tall, lanky, like, just feels like he would fit the bill for that. For Mira, and this isn't even, like, I don't even know about this one, but the only one that I could think of, Olivia Rodrigo.
Okay.
Because I was trying to find somebody who looked youthful.
Younger. Yeah.
Brecken, I said a younger, not like young, but a younger Chad Michael Murray.
Okay.
And I wasn't even like solid on that one either. But, and then Harper, I was trying to think. Kayla, I have no idea. But Harper, I was like maybe like a Sabrina Carpenter or a Dove Cameron-ish kind of, but I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I also didn't have anybody to cast for Kayla. I said Brecken. I was thinking like Kellen Lutz, but like when he was in Twilight.
Okay.
Because he's a big guy. And Harper, I was like a young like Gossip Girl Blake Lively.
Okay.
I could like picture that.
Yeah.
And Josh, I actually said Chase. I don't know. I was on a Gossip Girl kick. I said Chase Crawford. So there's that. And then Mira, I was actually thinking of her as like a young Evan Rachel Wood, like from 13. Ever seen 13?
Okay.
Yeah. So I could see that, but I also couldn't think of anybody for Kayla.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I don't know.
And I tried really hard. I couldn't.
Yeah, I didn't have anything for that. Did you have questions?
Not really.
No. Yeah. Yeah, me either. It's just one of those books where you're like,
it happened.
It happened. It was okay. I was okay to read it this time, but okay. So next week will be our 2023 year in review.
Ooh.
So we'll probably just. I kind of have a list. Have you come up with anything?
Not yet, but I'll just go through my Goodreads.
I know I have mine in order. So we'll talk about books we read this year, anything we're anticipating for next year, and then like I have kind of like a bunch of like different things I can ask Kaylee too, and I'm sure she'll come up with stuff. So we'll just be like chatting.
Yeah, just kind of a chill session.
Yep, just kind of like looking over that, and then we are starting off hot for 2024 with A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm so excited. That's already posted to Instagram. So if you ever want to know, I guess I can post to Facebook now too. I think when I first started, I didn't have the Facebook yet, but if you ever want to like read ahead or know what we're reading, as long as Dominique follows the schedule, if you go to Instagram or Facebook, and on all the platforms we are under Booktrospective. But if you go to those two, I try to post a month in advance like what we're going to be reading. And we actually had like an authors send the art to us, so we'll have that in January too. So if you are an author and you would like for us to review your book, please send us that. We would love it. But yeah, so please make sure you're following us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Booktrospective. Make sure you're subscribed to us on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, and that you're liking, rating, reviewing, leaving comments, and sharing our podcast and our episodes.
We yes, really share us with a friend.
Yes, just one.
That's Sharing fine. Is caring.
But that's all I got. So bye.
Bye.